Hi everyone, this is the Facts Only channel. Today I will tell you the 10 most interesting facts about the moon. In the lists of the main goals of all space programs there is necessarily an item about the moon, followed by an item about Mars. It's been over 60 years since the first spacecraft went to the moon and we haven't gotten very far in exploring it. Yet interest in Earth's only satellite has increased manifold in recent years. This is largely because the moon can be used as a transit point to Mars and other planets of the solar system. Let's remember the most interesting facts about the most visible object in the night sky. 1. The first map and the first audio record. The oldest map of the moon is about 5,000 years old. It was carved in stone by the ancient inhabitants of Ireland. The moon is mentioned in the first recorded song. In 1860, French inventor Edouard Alain-Scott de Martinville created a 10-second recording of the French folk song In the Moonlight, Au clair de la lune. The moon has always caught our attention. Since time immemorial, the bright disk of the moon has illuminated the way for night travelers. 2. The moon's brightness and shape. In fact, the moon is not as bright as we think it is. Its surface reflects about the same as old asphalt, only 12% of the light. Because of the clouds and large expanses of water, our planet reflects 3 times better, which is why joint photos of the Earth and Moon often artificially brighten our satellite. And this is not the only consequence of their gravitational interaction. 3. Stone tides, the moon's distance and eclipses. Everyone knows that the moon causes the tides of Earth's oceans and seas. But few have heard that the Earth's crust also responds to the attraction of the moon. The effect, of course, is less noticeable, only a few centimeters. By volume, the moon is about 49 times smaller than the Earth, and by area it is larger than Africa, but smaller than Asia. Because of the interaction with the Earth, the satellite is gradually moving away from us at a rate of about 3.8 cs per year. That's about the rate at which fingernails grow. Computer simulations showed that in the beginning, the moon was at least 10 times closer and therefore looked 10 times larger in the sky. Today, its apparent size is almost the same size as the sun. But in 600 million years it will be so far away that total solar eclipses will no longer be possible. Incidentally, it is said that a solar eclipse saved Christopher Columbus and his crew from starvation. In 1504, Columbus predicted an eclipse, much to the consternation of the natives of Jamaica, and they immediately brought food to his ships. 4. Lunar shocks and the origin of the moon. There are lunar shocks on the moon. Sometimes they are provoked by falling meteorites. The gravitational pull of the Earth also plays its role. But about a quarter of lunar shocks are due to satellite compression. Over the past few million years, the moon has shrunk by 50 meters. As it shrinks, cracks form on its surface. This is all due to the slow cooling of the moon's interior. After all, once our satellite was much hotter. In recent years, the assumption that super-planets, Gaia, which eventually became the Earth, and Gaia, collided a long time ago, and the moon was formed from the flame debris, has been gaining popularity. 5. Craters in an iron lake beneath the surface. There are approximately craters on the side of the moon facing us. It is a common misconception that the satellite protects Earth from most asteroids. The moon is too small for it. There is simply no atmosphere or erosion on the satellite, and there is very little tectonic activity, so the craters stay there forever. The moon has the second largest impact crater in the solar system, the South Pole Aitken Basin. It is 2,500 km wide and about 8 km deep. Its existence was beginning only in the late 1960s, early 1970s based on data from the Soviet Probe 6 and Probe 8 spacecraft and the US Apollo 15 and Apollo 16 spacecraft. However, it was possible to study it in detail only by the end of the last century. And not so long ago, scientists detected a giant metallic Massachusetts underwater. So big by more than 2 quintillion kilograms that it changes the gravitational field of the moon. Researchers speculate that these are the remains of a huge asteroid that fell 4 billion years ago and formed this famous crater. Because of asteroid falls, giant craters form on the moon, the boundaries of which make up real mountains. The highest mountain, Huygens Peak, reaches a height of about 5.5 km. The surface of the satellite is covered with lunar dust, which can be skated on like snow dust, so it is high time to build a ski resort on the moon. All great achievements begin with a dream and a desire to learn something new. 6. Exploring the moon and the first animals that flew around it. The first spacecraft to reach the lunar surface was the Soviet Luna-2, which landed on the satellite in 1959. That same year, Luna 3 sent the first ever images of the backside of the satellite. Thanks to this superiority, the Soviet Union obtained the right to give names to objects on the moon. Thus the craters Tsiolkovsky, Mendeleev and others appeared there, as well as the Sea of Dreams and the Sea of Moscow. The first soft landing on the moon did not succeed until 1966. It was the Soviet Luna-9 station. It transmitted to Earth the first ever panoramas of the lunar surface, measured radiation intensity and confirmed the meteor slag theory of lunar soil formation. Its successor, Luna-10, was the first station to orbit the satellite. According to astronomer Dmitry Martynov, it was an unusually difficult task from the technical point of view. Records of accuracy were broken in that experiment. In addition, special instruments were installed on board the apparatus, which transmitted the melody of the International by radio. This year the Luna-25 will set off for the satellite. We will tell you more about it in our story. Just 2 years later, in 1968, for the first time in history, living beings successfully landed on the moon. These were two Central Asian steppe turtles. They flew with flies, beetles, plants and microorganisms from Probe 5 around the moon and landed in the Indian Ocean. 7. Humans on the moon. A total of 12 people have been to the moon. All of them American astronauts, and none of them has been down on the moon twice. The first was Neil Armstrong in 1969, and the last man to stand on the moon was Eugene Cernan in 1972. The crew of the last mission, Apollo 17, broke many records. The astronauts spent more than 3 days on the surface, collected the largest collection of lunar regolith samples, and spent a record amount of time in lunar orbit. In total, the Apollo missions brought 385 kg of lunar soil back to Earth. Of that, 110 kilograms were brought back by the last mission. There is no wind or rain on the moon, so the boot prints of the astronauts are preserved there in perfect condition unless some asteroid fell on them. 8. Fallen astronaut and the only person buried on the moon. There is a monument to deceased American and Soviet astronauts on the moon. It is a 10-centimeter aluminum human figurine and a metal plaque with the names of Vladimir Komarov, Yuri Gagarin, Pavel Boyaev, Georgy Dobrovolsky, Viktor Patsaev and Vladimir Volkov among the dead American astronauts carved on it. The only person buried on the moon is Eugene Shoemaker, geologist, planetary scientist and founder of astrogeology. Because of health problems, he was never able to fulfill his dream of becoming an astronaut and flying into space, but he asked to be buried there. In 1998, his ashes were sent to the moon with the Lunar Prospector mission, which searched for water ice at the poles. A year later, the vehicle crashed to the surface. Thus Eugene Shoemaker became the first and so far the only man buried on the moon. 9. Shadows and dust. There is no atmosphere on the moon, so night falls instantly. The shadows there are completely black because there is no air to scatter the light. Astronauts who have been to the moon say that in the shadows, e.g., from the landing module, they saw absolutely nothing, neither their hands nor their feet. However, shadows are not such a problem. Much more dangerous is the lunar dust. It smells like burnt gunpowder and sticks to everything due to low gravity and peculiar structure. Astronaut Harrison Schmitt accidentally inhaled this dust when he was already back aboard the Challenger and dubbed it lunar allergy. The symptoms are indeed similar: tears in the eyes, sore throat, and the urge to sneeze. His laboratory experiments with an analog of moon dust later showed it is capable of killing lung and brain cells because of the microparticles it contains, shards of glass with sharp edges. 10. Helium-3 in the future. You will not find any gold, platinum or diamonds on our satellite. But we do have an abundance of helium-3, the fuel of the thermonuclear power plant of the future. According to some experts, its extraction could cover all of Earth's energy needs. We have big plans for the moon. Agencies and companies are planning to build a permanent station in orbit. There is talk of building a station on the surface as well. Astronomers dream of building a huge telescope on the backside of the moon that won't be obstructed by Earth's atmosphere. Under the surface they propose to build a repository for DNA and seeds of all life on the planet. The moon is seen as a staging post on the way to space. In particular, to Mars. Therefore, scientists are actively searching for ways to extract fuel for spacecraft on the moon from the water ice contained in the lunar soil. Its main task is to make a soft landing near the South Pole. This is a rather inaccessible area with difficult terrain and poor lighting conditions. Temperatures drop to -170 C at night. In such conditions, the station will have to operate for at least a year. For the first time in history we will be able to study the lunar soil near the satellite's south pole. Yeah, we're going back to the moon.